Hello everybody, my name is Sid and welcome to Sid's Greenhouse. So today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite plants that I have in my collection. It is said to be a little bit more of like a step up from a beginner plant. I would kind of agree because it can be a bit finicky, but for the most part it's a pretty easy to care for plant. I really love it, it's really pretty. Yeah, so that is the green maranta prayer plant. This guy, I can hardly get him in frame because his leaves are all going everywhere, but look at him, he's beautiful. I love him. Yes, this is a green maranta prayer plant, also known as just a green prayer plant. But there are different kinds of prayer plants, and the reason that they're called prayer plants is because in low light or at night their leaves fold up, and then during the day they fold down to get all the light. Yeah, so this guy so far this year for me has been doing really well. He's putting out a bunch of new leaves. And as I said in my last video, the darker these inside markings are, the newer the leaves are. So the lighter the markings are, the older the leaves are. So for example, these two leaves here have lighter markings in the inside than this one. So those are older leaves. He's doing really well. Yeah, so I'm just gonna do the care that I've been doing for him. And yeah, so basically when it comes to marantas, they like a bit more humidity, but the minimum that I say that when you're coming to tropical plants is about 50% humidity, which is usually about what my house is when it's like not winter time but it's not super humid. When it gets super humid, it can get like up to close to 60% humidity, which granted isn't a lot for some plants, but for here it's pretty humid. But our house is usually at about 50% humidity and about like 23 degrees Celsius. And that's generally what most plants like when they come to tropical plants. This guy could probably do with maybe a bit more humidity, but I think that now that it's springtime, and there's not heating on, which dries out the house, it's not winter, which dries out the house, that he's doing a lot better, and he's liking the conditions that he's in on my plant table a lot more. So yes, they do like humidity. They prefer to be watered a bit more than what you would say a pothos waters, if you guys are familiar with pothos. So I would say to always just check your leaves and stuff. When it comes to plants, there's no like definitive way of when to know when your plant exactly needs water. It's just to keep an eye on it, know your plants, know what they need. I have a water meter. I'll go get it. So this is a water meter, and when this plant needs, or like a lot of the times when I'm not sure if a plant needs water, I'm gonna check it, or I'm just like looking over my plants, you just put it into the soil and you see how like this is, the blue goes to wet and the red is dry. So this guy's pretty dry right now, but I did water him just a few days ago, but not a really big water. So you could probably go for another water. What you basically want to look for is that when he gets to like the 3 or the 2, which is what it goes all the way up to 10. So when you get to like the 3 or the 2 in dry, that's when you kind of need to water it. But you don't really want it wet. You don't want the soil wet. You want it moist most of the time, which is why you want it when it just starts to get to dry is when you want to water this guy. Or you can always look for the leaves. If the leaves and the stems are looking a little bit limp, then you can water it. As for lighting, I have this is a south facing window. I figured that out, that the window in front of us is north and this is south. This is like one of the worst lighting situations that you can get. It's like a smaller window, has a north facing, it's not very good light. You basically just get like barely any. So he would probably do better in a brighter light. I think they probably prefer medium to bright indirect light. But they can survive in low light, obviously, as this guy is doing. But I think that he would prefer more lighting, but he's doing pretty well, as you can see. Yeah, that's kind of the issues that I've had is mostly brown tips, which could be from incongruent watering, could be from lack of humidity, could be lack of watering if you're drying them out too much. It could be that they're not getting enough light or they're getting too much light. You just kind of have to figure out which is which. I know that's a little difficult, but that's kind of what the plant's doing. They're a little bit of a mystery, and you just have to figure out what's wrong before it gets too bad. But yeah, I have some brown tips on here from probably lack of humidity, but a lot of their newer leaves, now that it's getting into the nicer weather, are coming in and not browning at the tips, which is nice. As for propagating, this guy can be propagated. I have one that's just in water right now. I accidentally cut him off by accident when I was snipping off dead leaves, and I accidentally cut it off with the scissors, and I was like, okay, I'll just pop you in water. So yeah, they do vine out, as you can see. So they can trail, they can be a good trailing plant, they can be a good vining plant, but I haven't found ones that look like that. Most of the time they just look like this, nice kind of compact, but I think I would like him to branch out, which would mean that you need him to be in a bit more better light. I am investing in some grow lights, so that's good, but they do vine, so if you're propagating, you're probably gonna, I mean, if I was to propagate this guy, I'd probably propagate these two off, just because it has a node there, a node there, a node there, and then you have these two leaves, which also can give off other leaves, so it would probably be a good, like, substantial plant by itself. And then the original host plant could also give you leaves, because it has a bunch of nodes on it, so that's probably where I would propagate this plant. I do have one propagating, and I'm not sure if I'm going to put it back in the pot or just leave it by itself, because it's just two tiny leaves, so I could put it in, but I'm not sure quite yet. As for potting situation, I mean, this guy is like pretty well rooted in this pot. I think he's been in here for a little over a year, and he's done really, really well. No complaints, honestly. This is literally just a plastic pot. This is he doesn't have anything inside. It's just plastic. It's not terracotta, and the reason for that is because I think I didn't have any pots at the time, and I was just putting them in whatever. And this actually is kind of like a nicer plastic. It's thicker. It's a nice color. It's gray, but I think he's doing really, really well, because it means that his soil doesn't dry out too fast. It just means that you have to be careful when watering, because there's no drainage hole, and it's plastic, so it holds water. So it's kind of a double-edged sword there, but I just kind of be careful with watering. I do like little frequent waters rather than big one at a time water, just in case I like overwater it, which is what I said when I was doing the water meter, is that I watered him a few days ago, but it wasn't like a pretty big drink, and that's what I like to do, so then I don't overwater this guy, because you just don't want to overwater your plants, because they can rot, they can drown, suffocate. You just don't want to do that. Yeah, I haven't really had any other issues with this plant other than the browning tips, and maybe some leaves falling off, but that's pretty common. Something you want to look out for is when you have water that has like minerals in it, you are gonna get little, I don't know if you can see it well, but little, like the splotches. It's basically like the minerals from the water coming through into the plant, of the, like the pores of the plant, and they come up, and that's sometimes why you do get browning tips. And you get it through the plant as well. And that can happen. It's happened with me with a lot of my plants because it's like the only access to water I have is my tap. So I just water them. And I mean, none of them have died. They just don't necessarily like it a lot. And you were just gonna have to clean off the leaves a bit and deal with maybe some brown tips. But this guy hasn't really had any issues other than humidity. He's a really easy plant. I really enjoy him. There are different like types of the maranta prayer plants. You have the like original, this is like what they look, what you think they look like, with like the darker leaves with the purple. But this guy's a green one, so he has the entirely green leaves with kind of the browny purple markings on the inside. And I really prefer, I like this pattern of the prayer plant better than I like the original one. I like how it's like a bold statement piece while also giving you that nice green leaf. It's really pretty. And I like how, especially the texture on the leaves, because the textures when they come in on the markings are a little bit velvety. I'm not sure how to explain it, but it's like matte. Like just on the brown markings. Like it's really nice, really pretty. It's a good plant for indoor, for low light, for medium light, for bright light. I've had no issues with it dying from lack of humidity, so I would say that you can keep it in a non-humid climate. Yeah, I really like him. He's been doing really well, so yeah. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!